Hi, and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to the podcast all about the things that it takes to be a professional musician aside from actually playing your instrument. My name is Emily Dolan Davies. I am a drummer by trade, and I just want to share my experiences essentially because this professional musician lark can be rough, and I hate the idea of people feeling like they're just going through it by themselves, because you're not. There are a few universal experiences that we all have, I feel. So I just wanted to share those with you basically. Today's topic is a little bit different from what I've talked about in the past, and I guess this is kind of for you to do some research in terms of all I wanted to do today is share with you how I got on the gigs that I got on, or I've been on in the past, just to illustrate how exactly I got those gigs. So maybe you can find some patterns within that. Maybe you can find somewhere in your own life that you might be able to kind of maximize your chance of getting on a named gig, if you like, because I find that is so many of the students I have, one of the main things is that they want to be on a gig with an artist that is known, you know what I mean, that they can say, oh, I'm playing with this person, and someone goes, wow, I know who that is. Like, there is something about that, and I've had that. I don't think that's anything to feel ashamed about, even though some people will say to me, I know it sounds bad, but I just want people to actually know the artist that I'm playing with. And I'm like, dude, I get it. Like, I totally get it. You want a little bit of recognition because it's difficult to say, oh, hey, how you doing, I'm a professional musician, but then you say who you're playing with and I'm like, I don't know who that is, so therefore you must be lying, or like, I don't know, it just undermines the situation. But if you have a name that you can be like, I play with this person, and they know them, they're like, oh wow, okay, cool, you must be professional. You know what I mean? And the more names that you have, I suppose, on your CV, the more likely you are to get more names on your CV. That's my experience, at least, and has always been my philosophy actually since I was a teenager. So I don't know, it's worked out for me. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just, there's a million ways to do things, but that's been my sort of way to do it. So anyway, I'm just going to run you through the sort of the named gigs, if you like, or the ones that I've found most prevalent in terms of moving my career forward. I'll just tell you how I sort of got involved, and then you can, I don't know, hopefully take something from that. Again, I'm just throwing this out there as a concept. I don't know whether, maybe this is completely self-indulgent. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a way for me to subconsciously show off who I've worked with. I don't know. I don't think that's my intention, but I can't be sure. I've got to be honest with you. But I just hope that this helps in some way. So let's just get going before I start overthinking this and then just going, oh no, let me just not do this. Okay. So the first gig that I think was the most important, and it was definitely the first professional gig that I had in terms of, it was the first one that I was able to then move out of home, support myself fully from gigging, and that was in 2008. It was a band called The Hours. It was the first sort of band that had a little bit of recognition, certainly in the UK. They had this great first album called Narcissus Road. We then recorded an album called See the Light. Jesus, how long ago it was. And it was a super interesting gig. I was there for a year and a half. It was a double drummer gig, interestingly. We did a lot of stuff. It was a very surreal situation. Do you know what? I won't go into all that. But the point is, how did I get the gig? So, interestingly, the interesting bit comes in a minute. But I got the call for this because the manager, a lady called Gabby, her husband was a front of house engineer. And at the time, I can't remember his name, which is terrible. He was working with an artist called Mika. Now, the drummer for Mika was my best friend, Cherie Sose, who I grew up with and who I have known since I was 11 years old, or we were 11 years old. And so basically the front of house for Mika went, oh, my wife's looking for a second drummer for this band, because the band were already established, but they wanted a second drummer because a lot of the parts warranted having you know, extra drums, extra percussion, all this sort of stuff. And Charisse, and Charisse's like, yeah, I've got to go. Like, I think if I remember rightly, they were preferably looking for a female, if I remember rightly. I might have that wrong. So he asked Charisse, because she also is a lady, and she was like, yeah, call my friend Emily. So I went to this rehearsal room in Cebu in Shepherd's Bush Studios, and I went and auditioned. And I remember, what do I remember about it? I don't remember much. I remember, no, I don't remember much actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, I remember that it was me. I feel like there was so a drummer called Florrie Anderson. Oh my gosh, is that her name? That's just come out of nowhere. Florrie Anderson? Go on then. Yeah, Florrie, anyway, who, again, known for a long, long time. She auditioned, and yeah, that's all that I knew, because I think that me and Florrie ran into each other. But anyway, came away from it, was like, all right, what will be, will be. Anyway, I got a phone call from the manager, Gabby, just saying, look, we've actually decided to go with someone else, a guy called Jamie Morrison. And I knew Jamie because all drummers know each other. Now, me and Jamie had met when I was playing in a band called Visitor Q, and he was playing with, the Noisettes, that's it. And we were rehearsing in the same studio. So years back when I was like 18. So that would have been 2005. So we'd known each other for like 3 years. And I was like, great, like Jamie's wonderful, that's awesome. And, you know, I love Jamie. Wicked dude, still love him. And anyway, so that was that, left it at that. And actually, this audition would have been in 2007, thinking about it. End of 2007. Anyway, January rolls around, 2008. And I get a random phone call, and it's Gabby, and she says, look, things like Jamie, it turns out Jamie's got other work on, and he's not available, so we were wondering if you wanted the gig. So I only got that gig basically because Jamie was busy, so thank you, Jamie, for being busy. I'm not surprised, you are a man that is in demand, as you should be. So anyway, so I started playing with the Hours, which afforded me a bit of a platform to kind of like be seen a little more widely. I spoke about this on the last episode. At the time, social media wasn't a thing, not really, and therefore you were only as good or as well known as the gig provided, if that made sense. Like, you couldn't promote yourself like you can now on social media. So for me, it was like, this is a named artist, they're an indie band that are kind of around, and I get to be with them, and we got to do some really fun gigs. Like the first gig we ever did was at Sotheby's in New York as part of Bono's Red Charity gig, and Bono got up and played a couple of songs with us. It was all very surreal. I was like, this is a mad situation. As I look back now, I'm like, this is a mad situation. Also, one of the main investors was, well, the main investor was Damien Hirst, so that meant that we often hung around with Damien. He often sent artwork to be around the place when we were recording the album, just randomly. So a few spun skulls, a few butterfly paintings, a few spot paintings, just around, as you do. We did a really random video shoot with Tony Kaye, who did films like American History X and Detachment. You know, there was some weird, amazing, crazy situations that came from that gig. But anyway, 2009, I was like, right, decided to leave, whatever. So from 2009 till the beginning of 2010, I didn't have a lot on. I was doing a lot of covers gigs, I was doing a lot of function gigs. There were the odd sort of like original artist here and there, but nothing like substantial, nothing named, nothing known. But then in 2010, I want to say around about March, I got a phone call from a dude that I had not seen in about 6 years, and he was a manager. So I did one showcase with this artist called Manjari when I was about 17 or 18, maybe 18 actually, it must have been 18. And like I say, it was one showcase gig, but I kept in touch with the manager and, side note, the producer, Robin Miller. Love Robin Miller, legend. Alistair. So anyway, I get a phone call from Alistair, and I've told this story many times over, where he basically was like, look, are you around for a gig tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. I was on my way to another gig at the time, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like, what's the sketch? And he was like, well, it's in Camden. It's the ICA Gala and at Coco, and it's for Brian Ferry. And I was like, what? Excuse me, what now? So anyway, that first gig, and I've spoken about it many times on many other episodes, that was my first way of getting to work with Brian. So that was because I did one random gig, and I happened to keep in touch with the manager and the producer, but the producer didn't call me, it was the manager, Alistair. So and then that led me to working with Brian for I want to say 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, and again, like, this was a named artist, so that kind of opened up a few other doors. We did some absolutely mental gigs. Like, I was in his functions band, so I wasn't in the touring band. There were two sort of separate bands but sort of overlapping bands. It's all very complicated, needlessly, some might say. And I ended up recording on his album Olympia. But yeah, some of the gigs, because it was a function band, it meant that these were all very like high-end gigs, like with very wealthy people. And whether that was we did a couple of gigs for the IWC, which is a really posh watch company. Had never heard of it before I worked with Brian, but you know, these shindigs were just celebrity laden gigs, which for me, I just am like, I just don't feel like I belong here. I just feel really uncomfortable. But then there were some other really interesting gigs, and yeah, it was a really fascinating time, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I met some really wonderful people on it. Then, so that's how I got that gig. Random phone call from someone that I just kept in touch with. And then there's gigs like, because next for me was Tricky. That was in 2011. It was meant to be in 2010, but because I started working with Brian, I couldn't commit to it. So I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't do this right now. They came back around a year later, and they were like, do you want to come and audition? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, like, definitely. Now, me and the MD, Gareth, Gareth Bowen, I love Gareth so much. To this day, we don't know how in the world I ended up on that gig, how he called me, how he found out about me. I have no idea. He has no idea. It is what it is. Here we are. But why I wanted to mention this gig was because it's how I got the guitarist in on the gig. Tiffy Bray, who I adore. She's one of my favourite people on the planet. Fantastic guitarist. She's also a fantastic guitar teacher. So if you're in the Birmingham area, go hit her up for lessons. I love her. She's so fun. She's so funny. We toured together with Tricky, with Cher Lloyd. I love her. But anyway, the reason that I got her in on the gig was because so here's what happened. I went to a drum show, and I want to say it's when it was at Wembley. It was like the London Drum Show. I can't remember what it's called. And on this drum show, Carl Brazil was playing. So I've known Carl for donkey's years. I've known him since I was probably 16, 15, maybe even 14. Anyway, just being around, you know. But he came and did a masterclass there. Or maybe it was like on the main stage. I can't quite remember. What I do remember is that he came in and he brought two musicians with him. And they were a band, basically. They were playing, they had their own project. And it was, now the reason that I'm current, I couldn't remember the other dude's name. I've just remembered. Okay, so it was Carl, it was Tiffy Bray, and it was Ray Loverock on bass. So anyway, they played this set, and obviously I'm a drummer that loves songs, so I was like, I am so here for this. It sounded fantastic. It felt great. It was just, the songs were awesome. And you know what it's like? It's very, well, for me, it's very rare to be like, oh my God, this is a thing. Like, this is so cool. So anyway, after the thing, I went to say hi to Carl, obviously, because I chat to everyone, and got introduced to Tiff and to Ray, and we got chatting, and they were so super cool. And a little whiles later, if not on that day, I think it was a bit later, Carl was like, look, I can't be around to play in this band. I'm having to leave, but would you be up for going and playing with these guys? And I was like, mate, I would love that. I would love that. The songs are wicked. They seem really cool, really good. So I would travel up to Birmingham and we would play together. And I probably only did this, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, mainly because it wasn't sustainable. I mean, realistically, going up there is such a shame. I can still remember their songs, and fantastic songs, fantastic band. But anyway, I played with them maybe 3 or 4 times. And that was probably maybe 2006, something like that. I should look it up. I don't know where in the world I would look that up. But anyway, and that was it. And then I stayed in touch with Tiff and Ray, to be fair. And then this gig came up with Tricky, and they were like, "Oh, do you know any guitarists? Like, we need a guitarist as well." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe." And they were like, "Preferably a girl." And I was like, "I've got the girl. I've got her. Absolutely, let me call her." So anyway, she got on the gig because of that. But again, it's because we literally played together for 4 rehearsals. We didn't even do any gigs. It was just 3 or 4 times we played in a room. I happened to meet her at a drum show, like, of all things. Clever girl, by the way, coming to a drum show as a guitarist. Absolutely. And then we'll move on to the next one that I also got her in on, I think. I must have done, yeah. And that was Cher Lloyd. So that was in 2012. The reason that I got called for that, again, thank you, Charisse. The musical director for Mika at the time, Charisse was still playing with Mika at this time. She was with him for 6-7 years, I think. The MD was a guy called Marcus Byrne. And Marcus got asked to MD this new artist, Cher Lloyd, who'd just come off the back of the X Factor. And again, our Charisse, hey, like, they were looking for an all-female band. And Marcus Charisse, tell me, who am I calling? and she was like, "You're calling Emily." He was like, "All right, cool." So I went and auditioned, it all went well, fine. So again, thank you, Charisse, for that one. 2013, I was working with Janet Devlin, and honestly, no idea. I have no idea how I got that gig. I don't know how it happened. I got a phone call from the MD, Jim Jayawardena, and I still don't know how I got that gig, not a clue. Becky Hill I started playing with in 2014, and again, that was Kojo MDing that one, and he just called me because I think we just knew each other from around London. That's literally it. I don't know how I got that phone call, but again, the audition went well, and I ended up playing with her for a while until I got the Thompson Twins gig, Tom Bailey. And that came because a friend of mine, a drummer, Jeff Dugmore, hey Jeff, love you Jeff, called me because he couldn't do the tour. So he was like, "Look, I'm too busy, but do you want to do it?" And he put a couple of people forward, a couple of us went and auditioned, and me and Tom just got on really well. So, and in fact, I don't think he even saw me play, which worried me no end. Obviously, I was like, "Oh my God, he doesn't even know if I could play." But anyway, that was great. That was really good, and that got me into the 80s scene, which I'll come back to. So that was because of Jeff, so thank you, Jeff. It's amazing the amount of drummers that have been the reason that I've gone on gigs. Like, a lot of people think that, drummers don't, why would I be friends with lots of drummers? Like, they're not going to get me any work. Mate, I'd say at least half my gigs have come from drummers. Like, we'll always reach out to people I will always put forward drummers. If I can't do something, I'm going to be putting forward people 100%. So anyway, so that was that. Wait, what was that one? Thompson Twins, that's right. And then we have The Darkness. They saw a video of me on YouTube that I'd happened to put up back in 2012, I think. So it had been online for 2 years at this point. Maybe it was 2011, so 3 years at this point. And then they asked one of their crew members if they had... they asked all their crew members, does anyone know this girl? Can they vouch for them? Because I didn't have any connection to The Darkness. And luckily, one of them had worked with me on Brian Ferry back in 2010. So there's that link there. So that's how that happened. And then they got me out for an audition and we got on and worked with them for a year. Then I moved on to working with Howard Jones, and again, that was just Howard asking me because we had been on tour together with the Thompson Twins. So in 2014, it was a co-headline of Tom Bailey from the Thompson Twins and Howard Jones. So he had seen me play every night and was like, "Look, I want to get in a second drummer, kind of a stand-up electronics kind of thing. Would you be up for that?" And I was like, hell yeah. I didn't have any work at the time as well, so I was like, absolutely. So I got in on that, and that was alongside Jonathan Atkinson, double drummer gig. And then Jonathan I've known for years as well, like years and years and years, when we did an R&D session for Yamaha, probably back in 2011 maybe. And anyway, and then off the back of that, Jonathan couldn't do a gig with Kim Wilde, and then asked me to jump in and dep on that, which I did, and did a good enough job, I guess, because then I jokingly said, oh, you'll just have to have 2 drummers now, and Kim went, I love that idea. So that's how I ended up getting on the Kim Wilde gig as a double drummer gig as well, alongside the wonderful Jonathan Atkinson. So and then the final gig that I'll talk about before I leave you alone is the Voice Kids. And again, that came off the back of doing one jam night back in, I was living with Charisse, so it must have been 2012 maybe. One jam night, and then I got a call 7 years later from Dave just saying, hey, I need a drummer. Ash Soames left the gig, and I was wondering if you wanted to come do the Voice Kids. And I was like, are you insane? Are you insane? Filling those shoes? All right, cool. So, and again, Ash had vouched for me as well, because I've known Ash for a very long time, as had many other people that sort of said, like, who should I, like Dave said, who should I get in? People have said, get in Emily, like the perfect personality for this gig. Obviously I could play, so that's good. And me and Dave, we'd jammed before in a jam night, and we'd stayed in touch. So the reason that I'm kind of spinning through all of this is not to be like, look at how great these gigs are that I've done. It's not that at all. I just wanted to have in one episode a concise-ish way of explaining how I got gigs, and it, you know, one of them has come solely, or the catalyst I should say, has come from social media, and that was the darkness. But then it was coupled with them asking the humans in the situation, hey, does anyone know her? And it's because I'd already worked with someone. So I think I'm trying to illustrate that, for me at least. And obviously the way that I was coming up, social media was not a big thing when I was first coming up, but when you hit the kind of 2011 kind of time of my career, which was around about the tricky end of the tricky beginning of the Cher Lloyd part of my career, social media was becoming a thing. But by that point I had played with so many people, and these are just the named artists. Like, I was playing with so many artists, so many people, going to so many jam nights, and it always came from a random call, and probably it was always someone that I had, apart from Janet Devlin, which I cannot remember for the life of me how that came about, but I'd always had a relationship with someone that was involved in the situation, like always, even if it was once removed, like somebody either had worked with me or knew me fairly well to kind of vouch for me to get me on that gig. So as I say, the reason I just want to illustrate this is to hopefully, it's not for me to give you a formula as to how to get on more gigs or more named gigs, but I give you the information and you glean from it what you can. Find the connections. Like, I do believe that there are patterns in how people's careers are made. I believe that obviously they will change with time as different technologies come in, as different kind of ways of finding gigs come in, as the gig, like what a gig looks like, how that evolves. But I just wanted to give you the kind of raw data, if you like, in my personal experience, and how I have gotten gigs, or I should say how I have understood that I've gotten gigs, because obviously I don't know, there may be other aspects that happen behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of at the time, but this is just how they were presented to me, if that makes sense to you. But anyway, I hope that this has helped. It's a fairly short episode for me, 24 minutes, check me out. So yeah, I hope that this has helped in some ways in helping you get on whatever path you want to be in, if you want to be doing the session musician thing. But if this has helped you, please do feel free. I'm losing the power of speech right now, so this is the end of my batching of 4 episodes, so I get to take a break now. Well, I get to stop actually for the day, so that's nice. But yes, anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do feel free to like, share and subscribe. Also, if you're listening on any good podcasting platforms, please do leave a review. It really helps me like you wouldn't believe, and I really am so grateful for those that have left reviews. Like, really truly thank you. And if you'd like to support this podcast, you now can over on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/EmilyDrums, patreon.com/EmilyDrums. And if you'd like to see any other sort of small bits of content that I do, or if you'd like to reach out to offer up any subjects you'd like me to cover, then head over to Instagram. If you just go to @HeyEmilyDrums, @HeyEmilyDrums. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. And I will see you next time for another subject, wherever that may be. All right, lots of love to you. I'll speak to you soon. Mwah. Bye.
It's